He was born on the 4th of April 1944, and so just plus or minus some 71 years. His name is Professor Aaron Mike Okoye. I didn't know about the Aaron until I read about it recently. But he is really indeed in the area of politics. He's also a legal practitioner, and he's currently really working with the MPP full-time, even as he has gone on retirement. Today on Uncovered, well, I don't think he's been hiding, but we have uncovered him anyway. Today we will be talking to him on various issues. I know you will be interested in discussing issues that relate to the NPP. We'll also be looking into his family life and discussing some very personal issues. Well, Professor Aaron Mike Okoye, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
You're rather welcome to my home.
Thank you very much. In fact, I think I should have come here long ago, so I'm very happy to be here. My favorite colors are black and white. What are your favorite colors?
Blue.
Blue. Is there any reason for that?
I just don't know, but when I went to Presec, my house was colored blue.
Uh-huh.
And I've stuck to it.
And your shirt color was also blue at the time?
Incidentally, the general color was also blue.
And I'm sure you belong to Chelsea, don't you?
Incidentally, that is also true. I'm a real Chelsea fan.
Uh-huh.
I have been a Chelsea fan since 1970 when I was in the UK as a student.
Okay, okay. Well, so where did you grow up? Because talking with you informally, I know Okoye is really Ga. And then you speak such impeccable Chi. And so I'm just wondering where you learnt all the Chi from.
From Asamankesi.
Okay, so tell us a bit about that.
I was less than a year old when I was taken to Asamankesi, where my parents lived. My father worked as a cocoa buyer and importer, exporter, together with his two other brothers. They had a company, Okoye Brothers. And I grew up there as a very little boy. So I'm just like any one of those people who come from that part of the country. I have classmates, Kwame Akese and others, who were those people that I grew up with from class 1 till I went to Presec in Uduma at that time, in 1958.
Oh, wow. And then from there, I know that you also went to school in the UK.
Yes, I went to Legon, of course, in 1964, October. And it was a good time being in Legon at that time,
Yeah, at that time, I remember my father was in Cape Coast University, and he says they actually wanted a demonstration one day because they were giving too much of corned beef. So tell us about the university environment at that time, because when I was in Legon, nothing was giving us.
Those were bad times.
Okay, so tell us about the good times in Legon.
There was a tutorial system. Everybody had a tutor. Your tutor would take care of you socially, academically. Any matter that concerned you was the concern of your tutor. And there was a lot of invitation to treat. Drinks, socialization generally, to make you a whole man or woman, to interact with other people.
That sounds like a party.
Well, there was a lot of partying. Partying is part of life. Not a graduate who doesn't even know how to hold fork and knife. Life is holistic. In fact, so much so that in Lincoln's Inn, when I was trained to be a lawyer, it was part and parcel of the training of a British lawyer that you dined for a number of times, at least 16 times, spread over 2 years or so, and you associate with all manner of other fellows of the inn. So a gentleman or a lady, let us know, it doesn't just come about. Someone said at one time, if you want taxi drivers to comport themselves in a certain way, give them white shirts with tie and black trousers, and you see there'll be a difference in their conduct.
So tell us about your favorite
food. That's
the
training.
Your favorite food when you're on campus.
My favorite food,
yes.
I like kotomire napim.
And they were giving you that in the university?
In Legon, it was not a regular thing as such, but from time to time it came. And what was more, you could make special requests. So because it was no big trouble for the matron.
It sounds like sitting in a first class in an airplane.
Definitely, and it was good. But maybe it was not that sustainable when numbers started
coming in.
But
then it means that countries have not made provisions for their expansions in other parts of the world. This still persists, isn't it?
But in the other parts of the world, we could say also that some of these things are just part and parcel of normal life. Because if you go to a normal canteen, for example, in London University, there's no special place for senior members. The university canteen was just a university canteen because everything was special. You get because their standard has gone that high. Even, excuse me to say, the toilets, they're loose. Everybody is so decent that you don't need a special place for anybody. So you just went in as a lecturer or whatever, a student, and you picked a tray and picked food, ate, paid for, and left.
Let's go into your career. You have been lecturing as a political science, as a political scientist. Someone says, why didn't you stick there and just be a lecturer? Why did you veer off into politics?
It's interesting because politics came some sort of naturally. When I was in Asamankasi, my father, though not a politician, he participated in UGCC politics in the sense that he was the treasurer of the party for a long time, and everybody knew him as such. In my house, I met men like Dankwa, Busia, Dombo. When they came to Asamankasi for rallies and other things, it was a very, very commercial center, and a lot of activities took place. So it was that I was excited about particularly Busia. And actually, in the earliest of days, I wanted to be a professor of sociology like him. And he was my ultimate. These were inspiring moments for me. But I did not just start on just doing politics. After Legon, and after I had been sent to England by my parents to go and study law after political science, they didn't want me to immediately go and do postgraduate in political science and come and teach. My father felt a profession makes a man, and he kept on saying it. Well, having got that profession, I came and I was practicing. And actually, I had virtually forgotten about my academic career, because things were good, practicing as a partner in Agbado Chambers at that particular time. But thanks be to Professor Ninsing, then Dr. Ninsing was acting head of the Department of Political Science. After I had written my book, Politics in Ghana, 72 to 79, I wrote that book not as a lecturer. I was then a private lawyer. There are many people who don't know this, but I've always been interested in research and in writing, So when the book had been published, and it was then being used in Legon, actually in the department as a textbook, and so on.
I must say that the book is also being used in other universities outside the country.
Oh yes, especially in the English-speaking places, parts of London and in the USA, who are doing African studies. So it was that ultimately he asked me to come. And I remember one occasion, he had spoken to me about 3 or 4 other times. I was not interested. I used to laugh it off, But he told me something which really touched my mind and my heart. That, Mike, do you know that history of political thought, which I was known for, that is the political philosophy-ish aspect.
How did you get into politics?
That day, I decided to go and teach. Having taught and having written so much, being so critical, it led me into matters of politics. And when the NPP won the elections in 2000, President Kufuor called me in 2001 and asked me to become High Commissioner to India. After that, I decided, well, having come this far, I may as well complete the cycle. And so I opted to come down and compete for a seat in Parliament. The president was good enough to make me a minister.
Okay, now we'll get into that. But once you mention India, I'd want us to talk about your achievement in India. You came back from India with our Flagstaff House. Tell us about the negotiation in India. How did you convince them to put money into the building of our Flagstaff House?
When I was leaving for India, President Kufuor inspired me a lot. That gentleman is something else, because he will give you a mandate. As minister, he will give you a mandate. As ambassador, he will give you a mandate. And sort of, you will feel you are being dispatched. And if you're a serious person, you will go and perform. We had a good conversation. He said, Professor, do you remember those fine Indian students and scholars we had in London? India is a very interesting place, you know. I believe this is a place where we can get a number of things, and I want us to come closer to them. And I want to send you there. So I had what I may call my dispatch instructions, you know. And if you're a good soldier, you go in accordance with your command. He spoke to me also about his office, not for himself, but an office for the president.
So what did you tell the Indians?
Well, that one is also an interesting thing. Before we spoke about the Flagstaff House, Jubilee House, India had already given us $42 million for rural electrification and other areas. Then I approached the foreign minister again in one of our discussions, and I told him, you know what, we want to have a presidential office. And the man laughed. He said, oh, there are other African countries.
They're building for...
You have got so much.
It's enough.
And you want us to come in with a presidential palace? I said, yes. It's very dear to my president's heart.
So was it a grant? Was it a loan or...
All right. $30 million. 25 years to repay. 0.5% interest. Half of it was grant.
I have heard several comments about how the Flagstaff House looks. You just told me that it's actually our traditional seat in the country. Many people have criticized it, that it doesn't look that good. Have you heard those comments? And does your heart bleed when you hear things like that? For instance, some people have even said that it didn't pass to be a hen coop for even the place to be used as a presidential palace.
Yeah. In fact, you know, President Kufuor is a great gentleman. He made sure, for example, that former President Nkrumah's former residence was kept intact, and he decorated it as a monument for him. He was not going to do something for himself, but unfortunately some people started to politicize it. You know, never had we got such a project with that kind of softness and grant element. But some people, like you said all manner of things, but it's in the form of a stool. And every chief has a stool in Ghana. So it symbolizes Ghana as a whole in terms as the seat of government. After all, that expression is used, seat of government. And the project is in the form of a seat to exemplify the concept of seat of government. And believe you me, it is really a great project if you look at all its parameters and dimensions.
You are currently the chairman of the Constitution and Legal Committee of the NPP. Are you happy with what is going on in your party?
Oh, well, there are a few difficulties. This may be likened to the turbulences on the flight, you know. And one thing we must note is that as our democracy deepens, as we have big parties with multiplicity of ideas, beliefs, attitudes, and so on, there will be certainly some disagreements.
But will those disagreements include human lives? That what happened in the north?
That is a separate matter that can be looked at. But of course, it is being also
investigated,
tried in the courts.
Yeah.
If it's a criminal matter found to be criminal, appropriate people will be punished. So that is unfortunate, most unfortunate. And no wonder it deepened some of the misunderstandings. But that is a separate matter. The point is that these disagreements, we must see them as little as against our bigger ideals. When you go to the Catholic Church, it's a very, very well-knit church, strong.
But it doesn't look like the MPP is well-knit.
Well, there are a lot of disagreements, a lot of disagreements within them. What unites us is the higher ideal. What are those higher ideals? After the disagreements have settled, I can assure you, the higher ideals will prevail. The fact that we want freedom for our people. We want fundamental human rights to be respected by our people. Our party was the party that generated this for the 1969 Constitution, which was adopted in the 1979 Constitution, followed in the 1992 Constitution. When you talk about fundamental human rights, it's MPP, and MPP is the thing. No doubt about that. We want the rule of law to prevail. And mind you, sometimes when there is silence, it may also portend rottenness. Because, when people are free to express themselves, there's vibrancy. And sometimes vibrancy may have some commotion in its elements. No problem. The fact is that we are majoring in the minors. And
including the MPP themselves?
We are majoring in the majors and leaving the minors behind us. And you will see that recent events are signs of what has been done internally to,
like what?
Heal certain groups.
Like which event?
Like some of the meetings we've had together, which you will soon see in public. Some of the events that have taken place in Manchagbuena, with the Secretary General and the flag bearer. So what I may call these, I may describe this as temporary hitches, but they will be resolved. And we are going to resolve them because we have a higher duty. The higher duty to save the people of Ghana from the malgovernance that is going on at the moment. Look, if you look at things like the school feeding program, the National Health Insurance Program, those big interventions that the MPP brought about to make life more comfortable for the people.
No, but you are a Baptist church, and you know the scripture
I'm
pretty.
A
Baptist preacher, and you know this scripture pretty well. That a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Definitely.
Yes, and so if you are saying that you're looking at winning elections and moving forward, you would need to have a united front, and your front does not seem to be united.
Yes, there are difficulties, I'm saying. And we acknowledge some of these difficulties.
So, do you believe that the MPP would win the elections in 2016?
I believe we will. And I believe it is because it's going to be the will of the good people of this country. And that's why we are praying, we are seriously insisting upon the electoral registers change and a number of other reforms, which are fundamental. We believe that given the free will of the people, their will speak for us. We are not therefore saying that we are going to rest upon our oars with regard to some of those difficulties. Those internal difficulties are being seriously addressed. We are working round the clock to resolve our little difficulties.
Okay, mentioning President Kufuor and then looking at Nana Akufo-Addo. For me as a journalist, maybe I'm a young one, but taking a look at the process, you notice that during President Kufuor's era, we never had some of these wranglings. We never had some of these issues coming up until Nana Akufo-Addo came in. And then you started having the divisions, factions, and all that kind of thing. Now, is the problem not the candidate that some people have said you continuously push down the throats of people? Is that not your problem as a political party?
No, at all. No candidate has had that vast 90+% endorsement in the history of our party.
Well, it depends. Maybe some monies have changed hands.
Oh, and the electoral college cannot be bought.
Okay.
It's so huge. The people who elect, and that has also never happened in the history of this country. In fact, it is something we wanted to prevent as a party, the influence of money. When the people are few, then you can do that kind of thing. It's so vast, it's not doable. Even in President Kufuor's time in 2000, there were certain disagreements. In fact, you see, when you have a party which is so huge, which is so free, where there cannot be any federal declarations and so on and so forth, naturally the level of disagreement is high. And people, to be honest with you, will tell you the disagreements that existed in 1992 between our chairman and the person who became our flag bearer. He had his own preferences. But then when somebody else won, he supported him.
Do you think that...
Let me make it even clearer to you. We had similar problems in 2000 between our flag bearer and our chairman and aspects of the party. Because we don't think homogeneously. We think in pluralism. And then we come to a consensus. And that's why I'm saying these are not unknown. There have been such disagreements because there are big minds and every mind is free to talk. And there are areas of liberty for different people. And I believe that if you look at it, there's nothing strange at all. But let me emphasize, our flag bearer, there is no politician in Ghana today who is more popular, well known. No wonder a minister goes to a classroom and then they ask, who is the president of Ghana? And then the children say, Nana Akufo-Addo.
But does that translate into votes?
What I'm saying is that if you talk about popularity, acceptability, knownness, and so on, he's a very popular politician. He's a man who has dedicated himself to politics. He's a man who has done a lot for the people of this country by way of advocating human rights. He's a man who will not suffer the stampeding of people's rights. No wonder he did let Kumi Preko. No wonder, under the auspices of President Kufuor and as Attorney General, he brought a bill to quash the criminal libel law, because that law was making life impossible for journalists. The man who talks about school free education for the people of Ghana. And he has been very, very passionate about it. In fact, when people started talking about it so much in 2012, he said it first time in 2008. 2012, he made it more distinct. 2016 is going to be clearer still. And he has always explained, saying that education is the biggest gulf among people. Education is that which makes even elections easy to steal. Education or lack of it is what makes the big difference between all manner of people. When you are educated, you are high. And in fact, if you look at all these countries, Japan, Korea, and others who made it, they've made it on the auspices of education. Right. So there's nothing like education, and education again. One way we're really going to do it, and we're going to do it, is oil for education for all Ghanaians.
And what does that mean?
It means, therefore, that the oil that by God's grace we've got is going to be used as a foundation stone for education purposes. And when you use oil to educate your people, one thing about it is that it means everybody is going to benefit automatically. Because every home, every family, every village, every town will benefit from the schooling.
Yeah.
So in fact, immediately you see that it's not like oil in some people's pockets but oil for the empowerment and betterment of our people.
Well, in the 2012 elections, the high point for the campaign was on education. Just give us an insider information, if you can. What is going to be the theme or the area that the NPP will be concentrating on when it comes to the 2016 elections?
Education
will come again.
Will come again.
And in what form? Because it looks like the NDC has also taken...
Transparency, honesty in government is going to come again. Because once you are able to make good fiscal management, once you prevent the corruption, once those monies that are going waste and into individual pockets are controlled, once over expenditure is checked, so that you will not have a whole ministry having lesser budget than the office of the president, because there are hangers on and you don't know what is really happening and the money is just going away. Once you don't overspend just because of elections, and people really understand the need for proper management of the economy, definitely there's going to be a difference. This approach is going to be part of and parcel of what we are going to hammer upon. But of course, it is yet to be framed by the party as a whole. But we've never, forgotten about this real direction for our people.
All right. Let's go into electoral reforms. We have gone for election petition. The expectation was that some of these reforms that were talked about would probably have been implemented in, for instance, the Talency by-elections. Did you see that? The reforms that you suggested from the NPP, do you get a win that it will ever be used?
Well, the reforms have not yet taken place.
Well, but we went to Talency, so were your expectations met in Talency?
We are not hinging this upon Talency per se.
But it could be a litmus test.
For future elections, we have to look at certain things. We are told, and we all know, that the unexamined life is not worth living.
Worth living, yeah.
You must make analysis.
Absolutely.
My dear young lady, we register once for both parliamentary and presidential. One. And then it so transpired that the presidential voters list, those who were eligible to vote in the presidential election and those who actually voted too, that was 530,000 more than the parliamentary. Which in fact does not make statistical sense. Because we all register once. We don't register for parliamentary and then later on go and register for presidential.
No, it's a one-time registration.
So when this actually happened, and when the court case was on, and even before then, the Electoral Commission was asked several times to explain the discrepancy. They wouldn't until the court compelled them to do so. If the court case had not come, nobody would have known whether there was any good explanation or not. Because all they said was that these were the foreign Ghanaians resident abroad who were registered. And they could have just gone on shouting that and then muddied the waters.
Yeah, but
let me finish, please. But in court, they were forced to be specific and then to produce the list. When they produced the list, they could only bring some 705. When you say a thing is 530,000, and this is accounted for by foreign registered Ghanaians, and then you can only produce 705, where is the difference? That matter has not been resolved today. Till today, as we're talking now, should we behave like that?
Yeah, but
and that is why there's the need to revisit this register, to revisit this system that allows for this colossal discrepancy And for which matter, the president in the end got more than 500,000 votes, more than all his parliamentary candidates put together. You can see clearly that something was not right with the affairs of state.
So you're saying that if the register is not worked on, then the elections in 2016 will not be acceptable?
My dear, if you look at what...
Even when Akufo-Addo wins?
Listen, if you listen to what Kofi Annan said, I've got all those quotations. They said there's a need for reform. If you listen to virtually all the Supreme Court judges said, there's a need for reform. I quote you from Kanga, the operations director of that deputy commissioner said, there is the need for very serious reform. Why should we not? And if you look at it, let us talk statistics here. In some cases, populations grew by more than 50% in 4 years. Statistically, it is impossible. Should we go on like this with ostriches, and then every 4 years, people start looking for their passports? Then we start having prayer meetings and fasting times. Why? Because people are afraid.
Hey, it should not be. You don't want us to pray for our country?
What I'm saying is that I pray for the president and all those in authority every Sunday in my church. It's important. The Bible enjoins us to do so. But when you see a problem, you pray to God for wisdom.
Yeah. So,
and that's why He made us.
So that's a wisdom problem we have.
Exactly. And we are capable of using our wisdom. And God has given it to Ghanaians. So we must use it and solve the problem. Otherwise, you know what will rather be happening? We shall be committing the sin of presumption. God enjoins us not to presume on His goodness. Christ refused to jump down there because He said that is a sin against God. If God is going to protect you, it doesn't mean therefore that you must go and walk among snakes. Our God is a God who works in partnership with human beings. He gives us intellect, and He expects us to use our intellect to solve ordinary human problems. Then God is proud of us.
You were an MP, and then you were also a minister of communication, minister of energy, and then you were also in India. But on the 23rd of April 2015, on the Ghana News Agency article that was released, you were quoted as saying that it's not right for us to continue to have ministers double as MPs. Something has to be done about it. Is it because you're no longer a minister?
I said this several
MP?
times, even as a minister and an MP. And I was doing so upon very serious analysis.
You don't want others to enjoy?
I said it whilst I was enjoying it. It's not right. It doesn't allow you to work as efficiently as you would want to work as a member of parliament. Parliament has got to do with passing laws. Very often we don't take this thing too seriously in this country. There have been times when I presided over the House with about 15 people when a serious law like the universities laws and other things were being passed. It's very, very painful. Why? Because they are busy doing so many other things. And you know, when you get to parliament, in any real parliament, there should be a certain amount of the active involvement and participation of the senior persons, from whom others learn. When they walk out, they also walk out. If they will not attend, they will also not attend. And I could see that, one, time becomes a problem for a minister who is both an MP and a minister.
So what do you suggest?
And for that matter, the work in parliament comes to suffer. Secondly, you also see that it doesn't allow members of parliament who should be checking ministers the way they should do so. Why? Because they are colleagues.
Friends and cronies.
Thirdly, and they are friends and whatever. What is more, when people are aspiring to becoming ministers, rather than being content with being MPs, then of course one is being subordinated to the other. It doesn't make being an MP as honorable, as dutiful, and as serious as actually it should be.
Okay.
In 1969, even here, we had a constitution as it applies in Nigeria at the moment. You cannot be both a senator and a minister, or a member of parliament and a minister. We practiced here before. And we have, some of us have seen. Honorable Bagby agrees with me. You know, my own minority leader and many others, they agree with me in this regard, that to strengthen Honorable Oseche Mensah-Bonsu and others, they are of the view, those people who really love parliament. And there are some people who are real parliamentarians. They have a lot of regard. And in fact, the present speaker is also one who really loves parliament. He's a real parliamentary man. You know, I've seen that a lot of these people all share the view that let us have a separation so that parliamentary career will be an honorable, serious one by itself, not an adjunct of the presidency, so that we can say what we want to say, and we have to control the executive as we need to. If that doesn't happen, then we become an appendage.
Okay. Now, tell me the last sermon you preached in church. How good was it, and what was the topic?
It's not for me to say, but I know my people are generally happy about the sharing. Okay. I believe more in saying sharing than in preaching.
So what message did you share in church?
Oh, the last message that was of great interest to I myself was standing up for the Lord. You know, there are a lot of challenges in the world. And I even made illustrations about this tendency of homosexuality. And people would like to tell you that it's a human right. It is not. If everything that is supposed to be a human right is allowed, then people can even engage in bestiality, sleeping with beasts, animals.
Yeah.
And in any case, there are clubs for sleeping with beasts in France today as I'm talking to you. All these things are coming. And a woman can say, it's my own body and I want to be a prostitute. How dare you stop me? I want to live on my body. And then we say it's an offense.
You have 6 boys.
Yes.
And a girl.
Yes.
Wow. But it looks like your your son who is interested in politics seemed to be the only popular one.
Oh, well, maybe popular among people who are interested in politics.
Yeah.
You know, but everybody has his career. And some are doing their management work, some are doing the architectural and development work, and so on and so forth.
Were you looking for a girl, and that's why you kept having so many boys?
No. I never looked for anything in particular. I mean, a child is a child.
So you just wanted to have 7 children?
I'm a woman's rights advocate, you know.
Yeah.
I seriously believe in equality.
Yeah, I see that you even vouched for Adwoa Safo during the 2012 elections when you decided to put out your projects and say that if you have been able to do this, then another MPP person should be able to do this. I want to quickly ask, you are in the legal department of your party. Why did you make such a decision that you wanted all females to take certain places in the party without changing your mind?
It tells you my character. When it was primaries, she was not my choice. Once she won, she became the candidate of the MPP. I produced what you saw here as a document to show that the MP did very, very well. We brought hospital, brought police station, a circle, made roads, electrification. More than 80% was done in this constituency, and things that there are too many even to mention, which the people are very happy about, and you can see it well documented. That documentation was to show what an MP has done and tell them to vote for the MP who was coming. You know, the matter of women's rights, if I may veer there a bit, is so crucial because, like I love to say, there's no difference in intellect between a man and a woman.
And a woman, that's right.
And the intellect is the highest point of humanity. Your intellect is what makes you a human being. If this capacity is equal among us, then everybody must be given an equal chance. Ghana, 20% approximately women MPs. It's a shame.
It's a shame.
If you look at some of the countries that we wrongly think we are better than, with almost 45 to 55.
So what can we do to increase the female presence in parliament?
Last time round, rather than increasing the number of members of parliament generally, we should have introduced zonal representation of women-only contests. That is, if you put a number of district assemblies together, you form a zone. If it's 10, you form a zone. That zone will be regionally distributed, and then you elect another MP in a contest between the political parties, MPP candidate, NDC candidate, but women only. All those women only seats will amount to about 40. That alone will give us a number of members of parliament that will increase the proportion. It will be a way of giving women a chance. And in fact, this is what affirmative action is all about. And affirmative action law is an instrument for social engineering. It's because blacks are being discriminated against. You do some affirmative action thing so that you give them a chance. In the University of Ghana, we did it. And we gave women a chance
To come to school.
In no time, those women who may not have come to Lagos were topping in class because they had a chance.
Well, Prof, I think that I have become like Jesus Christ, who saved the best wine for later when indeed the wine was finished. But this is what time would have us discuss. And we hope that we will be able to meet up with you someday. You say you're no longer interested in doing some getting to become a president one day because you're already 71. But I see your grandchildren playing out there.
Yes, some of them.
Hi, please come. Join us.
A few of them.
Yes, all of you come.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. All of them have come.
You
didn't know that.
Not all of them. Some.
So how many grandchildren do you have now?
Plenty.
How many?
You need a tour.
Yeah.
You got to take make a roll call home and abroad.
Okay, all right.
I didn't
So
know this
you
was
are
right.
what?
My name is Shome.
Shome.
This Kofi, this Kojo.
Okay, so Kofi, Kojo, and then you? Erina, and you? Oh, Rima. They are so beautiful and so handsome. You guys are really cool. So you keep grandfather busy, right? You keep him busy?
Very.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you very much.
Okay.
And that's what time will have us to look at. We have been talking to Professor Aaron Mike Okoye. My name is Odile Ofori. We've been looking at issues ranging from politics to family life and indeed religion. He's a Baptist minister, and I'm sure he spends more time in the church now since the church needs him more. Have a good day.